Hi, this is Cheryl St.Pierre of Majestic Wire Artworks. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this finger swirl bangle bracelet. And you can thank Kim for me making this video because I wasn't going to teach this one. I thought it would be way too hard to teach. And then I decided I could demonstrate just a miniature of how to do it, and then have a pre-made one to show you how to finish it off. And it worked. So I'll be able to teach you how to make this bracelet. And it is one of my favorite designs. I've sold many. And yeah, thanks, Kim, because I wouldn't have done it if you weren't asking. So here it is. And I want to ask you, if you like this video, to share it with others on Twitter, on Facebook. Please comment. I can't say it enough. Comment, comment, comment. Even if it's just a happy face. Subscribe. Please help my channel grow. And of course, I always mention a way of you supporting me to help me make this channel worthwhile going. And that's all I'm going to say. So I also want to mention, though, that it's always a good idea to watch the whole video through once before you start working, just in case I've changed my mind on something or a measurement or whatever. And of course, I'm always making mistakes. You have to forgive me for those mistakes, because usually I'm doing these videos when I'm quite tired and my brain just doesn't fire the way it should. Okay, so anyways, let's move on and let's get started. Okay, so this is what you're going to need for supplies. So you should take a screenshot of this. You're going to need 20 gauge dead soft wire, 8 to 9 feet of it, and that's just an approximation. If you're going to use silver, I would recommend doing a practice run with copper first so that you know how much you need. 10 to 13 8x6 millimeter crystal rondelles and a lobster claw of choice. I'm just using ordinary basic lobster claw, but you might want to be more fancy. Okay, so let's begin. I'm just going to do a small version of it because of the length of the wire. I'm just going to do a miniature, and then I'm going to work into the finishing of it. So I've got the bracelet, mine, done already. So I'm just doing a 3-bead version, which will teach you everything you need to know how to make this bracelet. So what I want you to do is take your one piece of wire, and believe it or not, that bracelet is made with one piece of wire. So you're going to bend your wire in half. Then you're going to take your round nose pliers, and we want a fairly small loop because we're going to attach our lobster claw to this with infinity link later on. So we don't want it to be big. So I'm gonna do fairly small. And I'm not making the traditional loop. I am just going like this and then twisting it. And I'm going to twist so it doesn't hit the camera this way. You can twist however is comfortable in your fingers. And and I'm going to use metric here. So for ruler, I really recommend you have a ruler that has centimeters and millimeters on it. And maybe I should educate those that don't know what this means, because it really doesn't explain it. So that number 1 is 1 centimeter. Okay, this is metric, and everything is divisible by tens. So the smaller marks are millimeters. So 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters, and 1 foot is 30 centimeters and 300 millimeters. So it's not a yard, it's 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So the math with metric is a lot easier than the inches. I grew up with inches, and when I was in grade 9, this is telling my age, that's when Canada decided to change to metric. But yet, we're not metric with everything. So, like the gauges of the wire, we still use the gauges. Other countries use millimeters. We don't do that in Canada. We have gauges. So, but I have both on my chart. Anyways, enough chatting, and which I tend to do, I guess. So I want you to have about that length, and I'm going to measure it. And it's about 5 or 6 millimeters, that length. That's not going to be our traditional length in between the beads, but that's where what we wanted on the ends, because we use less on the ends than in between the beads. So now I want you to take one of your 8 millimeter rondelles. I use the larger size when I just say one size. And that's how wide it is. For the distance from here to here is 8 millimeters. And you want to wrap this around like this. And then you want to make this a V. So we've got distance. And then to save yourself from the wire tangling, I recommend, and you use this wire as an anchor, twist it about 4 or 5 times. And the distance of twisting this time is we want about 1 centimeter. So you can eyeball it, but once you get comfortable with the distance, then you just want to make each one about the same. So that's about, do it this way. That's about that's a shy of 1 centimeter. So I'm just going to do it a little bit more, about 1 centimeter. And then if you want to keep your wires fairly similar, you put the bead on the shortest wire, because this uses more wire than the other one does going through the bead. So that way, if you pick the shortest one, then you're going to be alternating it approximately. Anyways, you have your wires used up similarly. Oh, where did I set my beads? Hiding under my supply paper. Okay. And the same process all over again. And we really want to make it so that the wrapping wire is going to be on the underside for all of them. We don't want to see it on top with some and whatever. We just want to be able to see, we don't want to be finished like that. We want to finish it like that and try and keep it similar. And again, now I'm going to put my bead on the shortest wire again. And if it has too much length, you can always untwist a little bit, because that won't affect it, how the wire looks. Okay, and now I want, for the end, this end we're going to have it that length. This end we want to do the centimeter. And what I want you to do at that point, there's a reason for that, because it's going to end up being shorter, is I want, that's the end one, what we're going to be doing is making this length the same length as the circumference of your wrist. Okay, so my wrist is 6.5 inches in circumference. And so I would, at this point, make this from the end of this to this 6.5 inches approximately. You don't want it shorter, but you don't want it much longer either. So it's better to be too long than not long enough, I would think. So do with a bangle type bracelet, if it's, the rule of thumb is 1/2 inch, you can go larger with a bangle because it sits different. It doesn't dangle down your hand the same way. So, and it doesn't change shape, so it's going to stay steady. So it's easier to make one of these bracelets bigger, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're pretending that whatever length this is approximately the same size as the wrist that you're making it for. That's the rule for making this bracelet. Okay, so we're pretending this is 6.5 inches long, but I mean, obviously it's not. It just makes it easier for me to work with. Okay, so now I want you to continue twisting it now, and we want to make it, now we're going back to regular measuring. We want about 1 inch, which is 2.5 centimeters. So you want it 2.5 centimeters of twisting, and we want it to be, this didn't matter if it was messy, we want to try and make this neat because we're making the clasp out of it. And I'm going to keep my ruler handy. So I'd rather it be a shy inch, but 1 inch. I don't want to be bigger than 1 inch. Oh, it still needs to be more than that. Okay, now let's check that. Okay, so you see that? It's just shy of that inch. I'm good with that. And now, if it's not messy, you don't need to straighten it out. Mine's really not messy, but it could be. And you would just, you know, like I've done in previous videos, I just gently squish it from all directions and the twist will straighten itself out. If you have something really sticking out, you'll have to squeeze a little harder at that one point. And see, and now it's really perfect. It's perfect. Okay, so we want this end of the bracelet to be a big loop. So I'm actually taking my pliers, my round nose pliers, at the largest point, and I want to make a loop. And it's going to start off being a P loop. Okay, so it's a P. We don't want it to be a P. So now I'm going to take and squeeze at the meeting point there and twist this back so that we get an I loop. See how easy that was? But that's what's necessary. Now, I wanted to mention before, and I forgot to, so I'm going to mention it now, is while you're twisting your wire, there's chances of the wire getting tangled and bent and whatnot. Please do not straighten it, because we don't want to work hard in it, because it'll make it harder to make the swirls, the finger swirls later on in your bracelet. But right now we're almost to the point where we're going to straighten it. We're going to now hold this loop in your pliers, and we're going to wrap around, and we want to get close to the bead, but on top like this. Okay, like that. At this point, we're going to straighten the wires. And I'm only straightening the part that's closest to the bracelet, and we can do that as we go, because if we did the full length, we would end up straightening that part more than once, because you're probably going to find you're going to need to straighten it again because it's a big bracelet. Now for finger swirling, I want to make a loop as close as possible to that top of that bead. So I'm using my 2 thumbs to make a loop, and I don't want it to be too big, about like that. Okay, and now I want it to be close to the bead here, and then I'm flipping this around so that this wire doesn't fling all over the place and hit the camera. And that would probably be easier for you too, because it'll tangle less and it'll work hard and less. And as I wrap it around once and then come out this side, I am working my way down the twisting. So I'm working my, corkscrewing my way down. Okay, so now I'm close to this bead. Okay, and now I want to make a loop on this side, on the top of the bead. That's this part. Okay, so finger swirling again. And basically the same process. So we're going to the bottom of the bead, and then I'm twisting it around, corkscrewing my way down to the top of the other bead. Okay, and then I am going to then do the exact same thing, and you're going to continue that process till you get to the end of your bracelet. Exactly what we did with these 3 beads. So I'm pretending now that you are done your bracelet. If you aren't, then pause and get to the end of your bracelet. Okay, so you're there, and we're just going to go around here. See, this is why we wanted this shorter, because it doesn't use up much room there. I could have even had it shorter than what I do have it. Okay, so now we want to make sure these twists are all level with each other. And now we want to do a finger swirl on this, which was the bottom of the bead before, now is the top of the bead. So that it kind of gives an offset look. I mean, if it doesn't work out for you, it's still going to look pretty. Finger swirl is definitely haphazard is a good word for it. Okay, so now I'm twisting around the same way. I've got less room to work in, and that's why we spread out the wire before, is because we wanted to make room for this twist. And we do the exact same thing. Do that swirl to the bottom of the bead and spin it around. And you keep going to the end of your bracelet. So at this point, you can pause and work your way down to the end of your bracelet. Okay, so you're at the end of your bracelet, and I want you to wrap one complete time around. Okay, and now go back to the back. Okay, and then we're going to snip it off about this length, and I'm going to measure that because I am not sure. I just eyeball this usually when I make. I've made hundreds of these bracelets. I have sold many of them. Okay, that is close to 1 inch long. In centimeters, how long would it be? Whoops. It would be, I would say, 2 centimeters and 2 millimeters. So 22 millimeters long is what that is. And I'm going to cut it off about there. And I bet you your wrists and your fingers are sore because these bracelets can really tire you out. I wouldn't recommend making more than 1 or 2 in a day. I would not do 2 in a row either. I take a break. Okay, so for finishing it off so that we don't get any pokes to hurt anybody, we're going to do a spiral that doesn't have to be tight and neat. So you're just going to do a loop, and I'm using my chain nose pliers for this, and then I'm twisting it around. That locks it in place that it won't come out or snag anything either. So it looks like that, and it's not going to scratch or tangle. And do the same thing for the other one. And then just push it in the back, tuck it in like that, just a good push. And that's going to be on the inside next to the skin. It doesn't scratch, and it's not going to catch on anything. So that's perfect. Okay, so there's the miniature bracelet. So what we're going to do now is now I'm going to trade it off for the full length bracelet. Okay, so I'm sure you had some scraps left. I've got a little bit of scrap left. And you never throw these pieces away because you can always use them for other things. And we're going to make an infinity link. I usually use work hardened wire for my infinity links because then I know they're really, really hard. But you guys don't have that. But I want you to figure out what size you made this link and where it is on your pliers. And we're going to use that size to make a matching infinity link. Okay, so I'm there. Make my P loop. Then I'm going to go the same size again on the opposite way. So I'm holding it like this in the same spot on my pliers, and I'm wrapping it around. I stop about there, and I'm going to push this way. And what that does is, and it stops at a certain point, and it makes a tighter, stronger infinity link. And now I've got this wire wrapped around, and I'm going to snip it off with my flush cutters right there, as close to there as possible. And that's why I love these snips, because I can, those tight points can cut that so easily. I love these snips. And now it's not work hardened. It is fairly strong because it is so small. But what I want you to do is put it in your pliers, and the whole thing fits. So it's not going to mar it at all. And just squeeze as tight as you can. And I'm glad I'm not doing more than one, because I find this hard on my hands. I will get, if I did a bunch of these in a day, I would end up not being able to make jewelry for months. But that's just because I have, my hands get hurt easily, that's all. And I just keep, when I have it in there, I should explain, I don't know if you can visually see that, I'm actually pulsating the pressure. Squeeze, 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 squeeze is what I'm doing. And it does flatten the wire like you would if you were hammering it. And it's really work hardening it. And now it's very strong, very, very strong. Okay, and at this point, then I am going to open this up and put it on the small single link, circle. And then I'm going to wiggle it back into shape. It was open before. We're going to close that up by wiggling back and forth like that until it's closed. And then I'm putting on my Lobster Claw. See, and I've just got a basic Lobster Claw, a little bit on the larger side. I'm going to measure this for you in case you want to have that, but you might get yourself a fancier one. And usually fancier ones are bigger. So this is 1/4 of an inch. Usually they're sold in millimeters, so I will go millimeters. This one is 6 millimeters by 14. 6 by 14. Okay, so I'm going to put that there, which is a perfect size for a bracelet. Okay, so if you're making this bracelet for somebody else and your wrist is a different size than them, that's okay. I want you to use, instead of using a mandrel for shaping your bracelets, use your own wrist. Why not? It doesn't cost you anything. So I want you to wrap it tightly around your wrist to shape it like that. Okay. Then see how it went like this? Now I want you to just bend it like that, so it's kind of an oval. Close your clasp. Okay, and see, it's still not perfect. Now just take your fingers to make it oval like that, and it's done. That's all there's to it. And I'm using my, if you want to double check the size, I've got this piece of paper. This is cardstock. I can't remember. I think this is like 90 pounds cardstock. And I've got the measurements, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, just like that. If you wanted metric on it, of course you'd put metric on it. And you tuck, there, you have the one on the outside. I had it on the inside. Then you stick it in, let me make it smaller. Stick it in the center of your bracelet, stretch it out. And it actually shows it at fitting approximately exactly at 6.5 inches. And that's what my wrist is. So, not sure how we got there, but let's see if it really, maybe my wrist is smaller than I think it is. My wrist must be smaller than I think it is. I must have a 6-inch wrist. And close it up. It's always awkward putting a wrist bracelet on yourself, isn't it? My original bracelets that I did like this, I just did an open loop, but I lost one bracelet wearing it like that. So it was just, I thought tension fit, and it really didn't work out. There we go. See, I have lots of space there. So, and I had it when I had that measurement from here to here. It was exactly 6.5 inches. So, you know, most of the time it ends up being bigger than what I just lucked out with this one. This is going to be my personal bracelet, by the way. I do like it. Isn't it pretty? Red and copper, so beautiful. Even when it's antiqued and really dark, which will happen really fast on your wrist. And that's what it looks like on. That's pretty. So anyways, thank you for joining me in this video. Please share and comment. Love your comments. Keep them coming. And God bless you all. And see you in the next one. Bye for now.